In his last season in the NBA, Dirk Nowitzki was caught for questions after a game. Usually a guy who has played more than 20 years for a franchise, taking a little tour celebration in his last season, is asked about the moment or some memories of his career. He could have even been asked about his young rookie teammate Luka Doncic, who just had a triple-double in a home victory. Instead, Dirk Nowitzki was talking about teammate Harrison Barnes, and he had this to say. He's a better man than me for sure. Everybody else would have bounced. He's just a generally good dude. He obviously got bonds with some of these players here for life, and that's the kind of guy he is. That quote, given by Dirk on February 7th, 2019, and when Dirk Nowitzki's retirement tour was going on, included a reminder that the NBA is ultimately a cold, cold business. Earlier that evening, his teammate and friend, Harrison Barnes, was traded to the Sacramento Kings. Trades happen from time to time in the NBA, especially on the day before the trade deadline. But what made this different than any other trade in NBA history that I can think of was the Mavericks had a game that night. A game that Harrison Barnes played in and yet subsequently got subbed out because he was traded while he was still playing. It's time we reflect on how Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks got to this moment and the impact it has had on the Mavericks organization long term. Let's start with Harrison Barnes. Before the Mavericks, Barnes was the number 7 overall pick by the Golden State Warriors in the 2012 NBA draft after playing 2 years with the North Carolina Tar Heels. At 6'8", with versatile skills, he was a key piece for the Golden State Warriors as they won the title in 2015, a season in which he averaged 10 points per game and shot 40% from 3. The next season, the team went 73-9, but missed out on the championship. However, Harrison Barnes averaged 11 points per game on the season and continued to show his growth as an NBA player. The Warriors ultimately decided not to extend Barnes at the end of his rookie contract as they were about to sign Kevin Durant. As the 4th or 5th best player on the Warriors roster, however, during that dominant season, a lot of NBA aficionados thought he could show a lot more talent and a bigger role on another team, and maybe even lead a team, given he was only 24 years old at the time. The season he would get his chance was when the Mavericks signed him to a 4-year, $94 million contract in the 2016 offseason. Immediately after signing, Barnes would take the role of the leading scorer for the Mavericks over the next 2 seasons. He produced respectable numbers at 19 points and 5 rebounds in his first season and 18 points and 6 rebounds in his second season, while shooting above 44% from the floor and 35% from deep each season. However, he didn't leap into the all-star or all-NBA status that some expected, and over that period, the Mavericks wouldn't climb back into the playoffs. Now, we need to dive deeper into the Mavericks at this point because missing the playoffs isn't exactly Harrison Barnes' fault. The team had not made it out of the first round of the playoffs since Dirk hoisted the championship after the 2011 finals. The team was severely on the decline as Dirk was aging. Their team was old and full of veterans when they won the title. They moved on from those guys, triggering a rebuild that put them far, far away from contention. Outside of Dirk, Harrison Barnes was playing with guys like a washed-up Deron Williams, Philly castaway Nerlens Noel, pint-sized J.J. Barea, and guys who hadn't found themselves yet in Seth Curry and Doug McDermott. These teams were poorly constructed, and those were Dirk's age 38 and 39 seasons. He was playing under 30 minutes a night and averaging just around 15 points per game while Harrison Barnes was on the roster. Coming into Harrison Barnes' third season, the Mavericks were so bad that the previous year they had made the lottery after placing 13th out of 15 Western Conference teams. They wound up trading up in the draft and taking Luka Doncic, who would go wire to wire as the Rookie of the Year favorite the next season. In the trade, they gave away Trae Young and a top 5 protected pick the next season. In addition, heading into the season, Dirk would be 40 years old, coming back onto a retirement tour where the league would shower him with praise for getting big guys to shoot threes. Inching to the trade deadline, the team knew that they had something special in Luka, and so they wanted to start to shake things up. On January 31st, a couple of days before the trade deadline, they moved Dennis Smith Jr., who had been complaining about his fit with Doncic, along with recent free agent addition DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, and 2 future first-round picks for Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee, and Kristaps Porzingis, the prized possession. This trade effectively ends all the lead-up and brings us to this night. February 7th, 2019, the Mavericks are playing the Hornets. The Mavericks are 25-28, 11th in the West, and only 5 games out of the 8th seed, with Harrison Barnes having played in 49 games beside Luka Doncic, sliding in as Dallas's second leading scorer, having averaged 17 points a game and finding more of a spot-up role, shooting 38.9% from 3 on 6.3 attempts per game. With a little more time before the deadline, the Mavericks had 3 objectives: manage their salary cap since Tim Hardaway was on a big contract, try to retain their protected first-round pick, and celebrate Dirk's final year in the league and keep the fanfare on him. Tonight, you're Harrison Barnes, a consummate professional who's hearing whispers about possibly being traded so the Dallas Mavericks can avoid paying you your $25 million fourth-year player option. Less than 48 hours from the trade deadline, you decide to play anyway and support your team. During the middle of the game, you were traded for Zach Randolph and Justin Jackson and are now a member of the Sacramento Kings. Welcome to the most bizarre moment in NBA trade deadline history. As you can see, Harrison Barnes was not happy. I found in this video that he rips his jersey off when he's heading to the locker room in the tunnel. I also see that while he was sitting by his teammates, he looked dejected most of the time. He probably went from sitting with the starters to sitting at the end of the bench. Team owner Mark Cuban was in the bench area with the players while the trade happened. He went from sitting courtside and happy in the first quarter to a little bit stressed despite winning the game at the end of the fourth quarter. Also note that the guy sitting right beside Harrison on the bench initially was Luka Doncic himself that night. And here's the thing, guys. For Harrison Barnes' part, after the trade, he has stayed with the Sacramento Kings, being consistent, reliable, averaging 15 points and shooting 39% from 3. The team hasn't made the playoffs with him, but it might not be far off with the league expanding the postseason to 10 teams. He signed a 4-year, $84 million contract and has just kept his head held up high. On the other hand, they're the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I say in the title of this video that this trade has ruined the Dallas Mavericks, and I genuinely believe so. Things got really bad. Firstly, after the trade, they waived Zach Randolph immediately the next day. He was old, washed, and in and out of trouble since leaving the Memphis Grizzlies. Justin Jackson will also fail to finish out his rookie contract for the Dallas Mavericks, only spending one more season with the team. In the immediate aftermath, the team went 8-21 for the rest of the season. However, they failed to be one of the 5 worst teams by record because of how good Doncic had already been and were unable to keep their top 5 protected pick that they had traded to the Atlanta Hawks. In the hours following the trade, NBA players also showed some outrage on behalf of Harrison Barnes, with guys like LeBron James speaking out against the timing of the move. Which I admit, the Mavs could have had him sit the whole game or just announce the trade the next day, since they still had the entire morning of the next day till the trade deadline. Long term, the Mavericks' moves gave them $30 million in cap space that offseason, and they failed to add a star around Luka and Kristaps, instead re-signing their own guys after failing to land guys like Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler. Something that I think somehow has a lot to do with the attitude of players around the league in response to the incident. Barnes was the biggest free agent the Mavericks had signed after the 2011 championship by contract value. And to this point, he still is. This is a team that has been famously spurned by free agents, with DeAndre Jordan actually agreeing to sign, then return back to the Clippers at one point. The team has missed out on LeBron multiple times, missed out on KD, Kawhi, and many, many other players. Everyone said that Harrison Barnes was a great teammate and had so much maturity when he played in Dallas. Dirk would be quoted at the first media day after the Mavericks added Barnes saying, "There have been a ton of guys that told me that they were gym rats and I've never seen them in the gym at nights. But this guy is constantly in here mornings and nights. He wants to be great." Asked about Barnes during his time with the team, Rick Carlisle himself would say, "He's a special guy. He's about all the right things on the basketball floor and in the community. He's an example of what you want your kids to be." All those compliments, and he was traded in what was essentially a cap dump. The Mavericks would go on without filling that cap space in the offseason, missing out on star players for multiple seasons, To this point, they still haven't even added a third piece around Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. But the cuts run deeper than that for the Dallas Mavericks. If Barnes, who could play the 3 or 4, defend well, and get buckets from 3 levels, was still on the team, who knows if they would have been able to beat the Clippers the last 2 seasons in the playoffs. Just consider how when KP went down after 3 games in the bubble, they still went to 7 games. Or how when KP looked like a shell of himself, they still went to 7 games the next season. And Luka averaged more than 30 points a game in each series. How much more effective would the team have been with another sharpshooter on the wing when Rick Carlisle spread the floor for Luka, and in only Luka's second season, they had the best offense in NBA history? Or how about in the locker room with player relationships? Harrison was a team guy, and we know that the Mavericks have not had a lot of leadership in recent years. And here's a quick note. Rick Carlisle played the piano at Harrison Barnes' wedding. Would Harrison Barnes have been able to keep Luka and Rick Carlisle's relationship in a place that's good so that the future Hall of Fame coach and future Hall of Fame player were still together? Would he have been able to mend any ill will between Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis by taking both players underneath his wing? Would he have at the very least shown Luka how to take care of his body and display more professionalism in talking to refs in the NBA? Listen to Luka immediately after Harrison Barnes got traded.
When did you find out that Harrison Barnes had been traded?
That was the game.
After the game?
Yeah.
What did you say to him when you found out?
I don't know. I mean, that's just, I don't know what to say. It's crazy.
Do you think Luka would have had more faith and trust in his organization and be less disgruntled if they didn't make this move? And let's not forget, this all happened completely destroying all the goodwill that the fan base had built with Dirk Nowitzki's retirement. With a new front office and new coach, hopefully Dallas can finally bring in a piece to complement Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and Tim Hardaway. But don't be surprised if Harrison Barnes finds himself in Dallas once again, only this time without an act of organizational disgrace behind it. Thank you for sticking all the way through to the end of the video. Here's 2 more videos. You can also subscribe to the channel or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dannouf Sports. Holla at your boy.